distant lover, 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 you lover, you lover. Ooh, so many miles away. Ooh, heaven knows that I long for you. Every night, and sometimes I yearn through the day. Distant lover, you. The music and all.
Yeah.
Huh? You count down. I said start all over.
Okay.
Give me the counts. Keep your eye on the screen. Come on, come on. He ain't on the air yet. When he come on the air, that's when you go back over there. But I want you to get the screen and everything, see?
All right, stand by, Poochie. Here we go.
Go. Distant lover, 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 you lover, you lover. Ooh, so many miles away. Ooh, heaven knows that I long for you. Every night, and sometimes I yearn through the day. Well, good afternoon. I have a special segment today on Deadline. Hi, I'm your host. I'm Poochie Hill. I am here today with Akbar Prey's daughter, one of them, Miss Akira Prey. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, as you know. And I want to get into the subject pertaining to the difference of a daddy and a father.
Okay.
But before we go into that, people have heard this and heard that, and they can read the books. They can support by buying different apparel, and they can also read up on, I think it's Policy 848.
Yes.
If you need to get more in depth, please look up Policy 848 for incarcerated individuals that are political prisoners. From that there, let's jump to a little bit about yourself. Where you reside, how many kids you have, how important and how much of a headache at times little kids or older kids or adolescents kids can be compared to when you were growing up.
Okay. So right now I live in outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia. I have 3 daughters, 2 toddlers, and a 21-year-old in college. Yes.
You broke a lot of hearts. No boys, you broke a lot
I
of
know.
hearts.
No, I wanted a boy for the longest. It just didn't happen, and I was like, okay, it's not going to happen at this point. But yeah, I'm a social worker in Atlanta, and I'm also the executive director of Akbar Prey Foundation for Change.
Okay, now Akbar Prey, his Foundation for Change. Can you get a little more in depth about when you say change? It's already been supposedly proliferated what he was about.
Okay.
But being that you are his direct descendant,
Yeah.
what is that change about for you to those who you are inspiring to help and enlighten?
Sure. So I feel like my father uses his story as a cautionary tale. He wants to let the youth know the consequences of some of the decisions they make and to help to find a better route, right? So that's the change that he wants to to help happen, really changing lives. What I'm doing in Atlanta is I do just giving back and showing, the good that my father can bring to the world and the positive impact that he can bring. I do a yearly dinner for Valentine's Day for women at a domestic violence shelter. We've been doing that for the past 3 or 4 years. We do every Thanksgiving. We go out and we make a huge dinner for the homeless population in the city of Atlanta. We're doing after-school programs. He has a curriculum here actually in the city of Newark with Millie Harris, where he speaks and he talks to the youth, and of course via phone. And they just go over some of his books and some of his teachings, and again, just showing them a different route.
Are you a product of the school system of Newark?
I'm not, actually. I left Jersey. I lived in Belleville when I was till about 13. So most of my education was in Atlanta, in Georgia.
Okay, so now, being that you spoke of that your father's teachings speak to the kids of today, which is very essential. Electronics and I guess the Google and everything else is great in that aspect that they can get it straight and direct, what to do, why it was done, and the difference of that time to now. How do you feel about the youth of today, being that you look much younger than what you are? The difference of their transgressions and hurdles that they are confronted with compared to you, not me, because I'm older than you by quite so much. How do you see and how do you feel that is very inspiring to them, and they actually comprehend what they're trying to retrieve and study and dissect?
I'll say, especially in the city, in Atlanta and Newark, our role models are a little different, right, than what people might have in different areas in the suburbs in the Midwest, what have you. So there's a lot of young people that look to my father as a role model somewhat, but he wants them to see him as someone who's making a positive change. This is something else that you can do in your life. Look where the lifestyle led me, and let me show you another way.
Well, let me say this here, Akira, in that aspect. I went to a showing last night, very, very prominent and influential and informative. And it said, and I took this away from it, in the urban communities of America, we're not just talking about Newark, we're talking about America, because in greater Atlanta, outside of Peachtree Lane down there, Atlanta is still ruled. Atlanta still has bigotry, and you know where to go and where not to go.
Exactly.
You're supposedly welcome, and you might be welcome, but it's a welcome that is not in that metro area.
100% correct.
So saying that there, I say that to say, as you spoke upon not just black, that's another myth. Individuals that are young have a tendency to gravitate towards people they can touch, see, feel, and understand. Individuals that are into the profession of underworld, you like the way I said that?
Okay.
They're gravitated to because they have a plenty. They also, as throughout history, from the Al Capones and everyone else, take care of those that are from their neighborhood, even though there's a yin and a yang, a sweet and a sour, or oil and vinegar to it. But that's the American way also. Now, to give back to individuals that have come through the same concrete depression, deprivement, and lack of across the board, from education to shelter to common cordialness, because you are depleted, you're beat down. This is white, black, Chicano, any individuals that come to the North American continent from somewhere else, the land of milk and honey, and find out that it's vinegar and water, and they have to make a way. When you're asking a person to starve, no shelter, no protection, no education, you're asking them to die. Now, the thing that I find to be grand and great is that, and it's not spoken of enough, and I'm not advocating for individuals to go to the penal system, but I have found of my research over time that all of those, from Marcus Garvey to Elhaj Malik Shabazz to Nelson Mandela, and on Mahatma Gandhi and all these others, Martin Luther King, they utilized that time to self-motivate themselves, self-propel themselves, and self-protect themselves. To be self-contained, self-motivated, and self-motivated to the aspect that the gift, because that's a gift, to even have an underworld enterprise, you have to have some type of knowledge to supersede. It's just that it was not embraced and motivated. It was looked upon as a deficit when they were in school, because your father was intelligent, beyond a doubt.
Still is.
As a matter of fact, all of those individuals that I spoke to had problems to a degree in school. That's because their vision was so brash, they were so blessed with a gift. Once you're given a gift, you have no say-so on it. It's up to you to utilize it for the proper or for the improper. So getting from that there, how are the kids, and what is the age bracket that the kids have this via conversation through the books that they're reading, because they're now taking books off the shelf?
I want to speak on just a little bit of what you mentioned about that time away and them utilizing it to build themselves. I think that's really important, because a lot of people find themselves in survival mode, right? And it's so hard to go after your greatness and go after your goals when you're just trying to survive. You're just trying to live. But when you, and again, I'm not advocating for people having time away, but when you get time away, and not even prison, if you get time to just focus and you know, I don't know, get closer to your inner self. Get closer to your inner self. You get that time to have freedom to go after your goals and freedom to manifest things that you want in your life. So I think that's where that comes from, because they're not in survival mode anymore, right? They have that time to work on themselves and build themselves and manifest their goals, and just not trying to make it day to day.
Well,
right?
You've done a bid.
A bid?
Yeah, you see your face? You see how your face changed? Did you all see how her face changed? And I said, she did a bid. You did a 3-year bid, and so did I. With this, what do you call it? 19.
COVID?
Thank you. Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it, what you just said.
Yeah.
In the aspect, it made everyone take time
Yes.
to deal with yourself.
So many businesses got launched out of COVID-19. So many people started making a lot of money because they had that time to sit.
You said it.
Yes.
Survival mode.
Yes.
In the aspect, whereas survival and pressure will make you respond to the diminuting factor or propel you to the positive factor of action. So you and I both have done the bid. Would you agree? All of America has done a bid. And it had nothing to do with your color, had nothing to do with your geographical where you live, had nothing to do with your scholastical aptitude. You just done a bid, and it's never been before in our lifetime. You know, we've heard of the Great Depression, we've heard of the recessions, all of these things, but to actually be hit with something, even with the AIDS epidemic at that time in the early 80s, it wasn't as dramatic and traumatic as this here. So, going from that, let's speak of now how your social work has helped you to give of yourself, because that's a gift within itself, like a nurse. To be a social worker, to sit down and help people strategically find a route, like a navigator. Speak upon that.
I think it was important for me, specifically having both of my parents incarcerated throughout my life. It was a struggle, for lack of better words. So I understand, struggle. I understand just trying to, like you said, get through day to day. I understand hardship. So for me, it was like, okay, you really can't tell somebody how to get out of a situation that you've never been in, right? If you've never been in a dark place, you can't tell somebody else how to get out of it. So for me, it was like, okay, I've been here. I've seen this. Let me show you how to get out.
Are you saying that your life has not been, I have to say it, I gotta ask you.
No, go ahead.
Peaches and cream? You
Of
mean
course
to tell
not.
me? Wait,
Of course
no. No, it's no way you're gonna tell me and tell our audience. Just like others
Yeah.
that have been on the world and with the underworld, that supposedly, you mean to tell me you know what struggle is?
Yeah, I think I spoke to someone before who had a parent that was incarcerated that led a different lifestyle, and they talk about how people glamorize it. But you're like, well, what about their children? What about their children that live every day for the 35 years without a father? What about the children that had to endure living with people that maybe didn't have the tools to properly care for them?
So you are in tune. It goes back to your profession. You are in tune with, say, a young adolescent or a young person, even younger or even older, that has to go somewhere for remedials and have to put up with whatever shortcomings, because they are the outsider looking in, and you're just here either because I get paid or because I get the gratuities that come from it.
No, it's. I feel like people can tell when you're genuine. People can tell when you really care, like you're really there because you want to see a person get from where they were to, like, the progression is beautiful. To see this person not even thinking that they can graduate high school to go on to, to college. To see a person who, was on drugs, or who, I deal with a lot with teen moms. And to me, they're so important because now they have a whole other life. So not only affecting one life, I'm affecting two, because I'm making their life better, which in turn will make their children's life better. So yeah, it's a bit bigger meaning.
I'm going to call you an anchor.
Okay.
An anchor is something that holds something steady because it gets rocky with the waters.
Yes.
So
yes.
in essence, you have said the opposite way, which I was saying, which I wanted you to say.
Okay.
What I wanted the public to understand is that the persons that are in these homes or in these institutions are going from home to home and shelter to shelter, even with the public assistance. There are still individuals, angels that are there specifically from the kindness and gentleness of their heart. But again, it's a gift.
Yeah.
You see where I compare the two? To have a gift, you have no say-so when it just comes natural to you. Well, be it you've been such an anchor, what is the difference that you see in the urban city of northeastern America, the East Coast, where a lot of your family is, still is, and Atlanta, which so many have migrated back there? What is the comparison of, or is it the same? Please put that out there. Look right in that camera right there and tell them what is the difference. That's your camera.
I will say, you know what? I grew up in Belleville, so
A Buccaneer?
Yeah, Buccaneer.
There you go.
Belleville Buccaneer.
I tried.
I grew up in Belleville, and living in Georgia, I feel like I haven't spent enough time in Newark
But what's the
necessarily.
difference in Belleville? Because Belleville, wait now.
Go ahead.
Wait now.
Go ahead.
Akira, Belleville has its transgressions too, from an ethical perspective.
Okay.
Because you were in the minority.
Okay.
Now, what did you see over there that you might have seen when you came to Newark on a bigger scale? Because it's pretty much the same. It's just that the ethnicity alters.
Yes. In a comparison from Belleville to Georgia, right? And you spoke about this a little bit. Growing up in Georgia, you don't really realize how segregated it is until you go somewhere else.
No way.
You don't. You don't see it.
No.
You don't see it.
We're
I
going
promise
right.
you.
We're going right to the gristle, as they say now. No way you could tell me that, because everyone is flocking there. I'm in agreement with you, but I had to say that there.
Yeah.
Oh no. See, that's the profound profession of but that's the truth.
Yeah.
Please continue.
When you live there, it is like you'll go to restaurants. This is a black restaurant. This is a white restaurant. This is a nightclub. They have a black night and they have a white night. They don't call it that, but it is what it is, you know.
Did you say it is what it is?
Yeah.
I like that. You don't went right. You don't came on down home. Now, come on, don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop.
It is what it is. It's a lot of segregation. So honestly, this is a little off topic, but I just recently was
Nothing's off topic.
Yeah,
Give it to him.
I was just recently looking to purchase land in Atlanta. Not in
Don't
Atlanta.
tell me no red line. Don't you even think of it.
What?
With the millionaires and the money they put down there for 33,000 square feet, the big chandeliers. That's what everybody telling everybody to come to Atlanta for.
Yeah. But Georgia, they're trying to keep up, right? Because now we have Tyler Perry Studios and all these different studios, and Hollywood is coming there.
Okay.
Also, the prices are rising.
But they're coming to Newark too.
Please don't think that you're coming to Atlanta getting a deal. Maybe compared to Jersey. But no, you're not anymore. Not after COVID. You're not getting the deal anymore.
Is that about the last 10 years, maybe?
No, I would say what they've come to say to Atlanta, as far as the price of living and the amount that people are making, it's unaffordable at this point.
Is it cheaper to live in the dirty South, or should I say the big city of the South? Because see, Mississippi, Louisiana, that's a whole nother digression. Whole nother concept.
Yeah.
But to live in the New York City of the South, which is Atlanta,
Yes. Okay.
is it that hard to live from an economical perspective? Because an $80,000 a year income, have you living with a chandelier and spiral steps? Or
Oh, absolutely not.
So that's not the truth?
Absolutely not.
But I see you in the magazines.
At one point, maybe about, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago, possibly. Okay. But now, like I said, there's a demand. Everybody's coming there, so now they're raising the prices to deal with the demand. But the issue is, no one's speaking about the disparity in wages. Like, the cost of living is doubled, but people are still getting paid $15 an hour. People that live in Georgia, most people in Georgia are not getting paid $80,000. They're getting like maybe, they'll be happy to get 30.
So, a fast food restaurant and a Walmart is basically the biggest, even if you go down there with your sheepskin. You know what a sheepskin is. That's your diploma from college or whatever. You're still not in the thick of the, I shouldn't say rich and famous, but the total middle class. It's still that much poverty there as it is here.
Yes, I would say yes. It's much poverty. You could not live in Atlanta on a minimum wage job at all. You would have to get a few.
Can you itemize a minimum job?
Minimum wage? Well, I think our minimum wage now is what, like $7 an hour or something like that?
No.
Isn't it? It's not.
I thought it was 15 to 20.
If that's what it was supposed to be, but it's not. Minimum wage is not $15 an hour. They were trying to get it to be $15 an hour.
Really?
Yes, but it's not. I mean, and people are lucky to be making $15 an hour in Georgia. So they can't afford to live anywhere.
I'm really shocked.
No, seriously, they can't afford to live anywhere. They either have roommates or they work in 2 or 3 jobs just to survive.
Okay, now let's speak of the students, because that's a college town, just like Newark is.
Yeah, we have a lot of HBCUs.
Yes. How does that resonate in the aspect of those that go to school there and then reside there, in the aspect of living.
Yeah, it's difficult. I talked to you about my daughter now. She's 21 and she goes to college at KSU, and she has to live at home because it's unaffordable. You can't go
What
to
is
school.
the tuition about?
At KSU,
You have to explain to them who pays.
KSU, Kennesaw State University.
I know what Kennesaw. I went to Albany State, so I understand.
Oh, okay. So it's about 5,000 some or so semester, but you can't.
That's in state.
But you can't afford that in apartment making $7 an hour. It's impossible. So
You
know.
come home to eat dinner every night.
Yeah, but where you gonna live? In your car? Look, that's the issue.
So it's a toss where you stay on campus,
Yeah,
or you go home every night
yeah,
and still work the 3 jobs.
yeah. Exactly. It's difficult. It's difficult.
That's really heavy. Now, going from that there to what is going on for us, being this is the International Month of Women,
Yes.
and I applaud you for being a great woman of all that you've gone through. How has it been dealing with absenteeism to a degree from a physicality perspective? That's all.
With my father.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you can say something to those that have maybe not had the duration that you've had, but they're dealing with it in its novice stages.
Most people who know me or know my father's my best friend. Like he is my favorite
Your
person.
daddy's girl.
Definitely.
So you do understand the topic from the beginning about a daddy and a father.
Yes. Yes.
You'll
yes.
speak about that shortly.
Yes. So him not being around or being home, it leaves you prey, right? To not have a father in the home. It leaves you prey to people who may not have the best intentions for you. And it's so important to have that head of a father or at least a male.
Every family
in
needs
the household.
a pit bull.
Yeah. It leaves you prey to people who don't have the best intentions or who don't mean you,
Any well.
the best. Don't mean you any well. But I don't know. I'm very close to my dad, but for him not being there in the physical and for him not being able to intervene, it definitely brought up some issues.
So are you telling me, make sure I get this question right.
Go ahead.
This pretty face, underneath this pretty face, it is true there are strong women of all nationalities. Don't look at the pretty face because they don't understand your walk. They don't understand your substance. They don't understand your triumphs. So do you care to speak on that there for the young ladies today that feel there is no hope? Period.
Oh, no. Listen,
You like
period.
that? You like that? You like that?
Look at me. But yeah, there's always hope. There's always a bright side, right? I feel like you don't even appreciate the good days without the bad, right? You don't even know what it feels like to have a good day without having the bad days. And it makes you, it's cliche to say it makes you a stronger person, but it does. I always tell, like I recently went through divorce, right? And it was difficult. It was depressing. It was hard to come out of. But I'm like, I went through 35 years without having my father in my home. I went through being left in the home with people who didn't take good care of me, right? They didn't mean me well. I can get through this. That's what it sort of put inside of me. Like, I've seen so much stuff. This is nothing.
I got to give you this.
Yeah.
I tell my players, if there's no hope,
Yeah.
there's no faith.
Yeah.
If there's no faith, you can't believe.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, even with your father, no, your father and daddy is the same.
Yeah.
In the concept of where I'm going.
Yeah.
Your daddy was your Monday morning quarterback. He gave you the play of how to get through this 2-minute drill. And you came to realize it works.
Oh yeah.
Now
Oh, yeah.
you catapult to help others that are in that situation and not even knowing it. Because they look at you and see structure, they see strength, they see that you're human, but more importantly, they see that you care. That's what comes across mostly, I would presume, when you're doing your social work. Just like your interest of importance is not just for you because of your father's situation, but more so trying to let the individuals that are of the same decor understand the importance of, if I reach to you, what do you naturally do to me?
I reach back.
So that's what you're saying in the 848. So please speak on that too.
Oh, so the 848. 848 is a statute that gives mandatory minimums for people who are convicted of leading criminal enterprises, right? In my father's case, drug enterprises. And in his case, it was a mandatory minimum of life with no parole with an additional 50 years, right? Which he has served that 50 years of more than a third of the that 50 years. So with the 848, or even with the film, the project that we're working on.
Please speak on it there for those that were not able to attend that
Yes.
beautiful segment last night.
We're just trying to bring light, like, if just to speak on the importance of a father and a daddy, like, anything I'm doing is to bring my father home. I could care less about no, I want people to see it because I want them to know what's going on, because a lot of people don't know. They don't understand the injustice of someone serving a life prison who was convicted of a nonviolent crime.
I'll put it out there for you since you won't.
Go ahead.
What they're speaking of is that you have a person doing 30 years or more, or life. Now, if I'm not mistaken, 2A or was it 2C was 20 years. That was considered life at one time. I think it's something different now, 2A. I think that's something beyond that there. But that was in retrospect to a manslaughter, something of that magnitude. So you're going to have to get in depth and in deep to really teach now, social worker, really teach of the importance of the injustice you feel, not only to your situation, but to all those others that have been incarcerated. I think that was during the Reagan administration, and I think Nelson Rockefeller might have been the mayor or the governor of New York State, in the aspect of there was no heinous physicality of someone dying, but it was the fact of the enterprise, and that that's the injusticement that you're speaking of.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
A little bit.
Okay, well, give it to him. I'm doing the best I can.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so when you talk about lawmakers, I remember seeing a documentary where Clinton was speaking, and he said, "We got it wrong. We made the laws too harsh. We took too many men away from their families. We broke too many families up. We got it wrong, right?" So my question then is, okay, if you got it wrong, then what do you do about it? How do you say, I'm sorry, it was wrong? Like, that's an empty promise. You can't just say you're sorry and then have no action behind it. So they're admitting that they got it wrong. They're admitting that they left a lot of broken homes back in the 80s and 90s or what have you. But they're not making any reparations, for a lack of a better word.
But that is true to have murdered someone, or second-degree murder, or first-degree murder. It's understandable.
Yeah.
It's very understandable
Yeah.
from the aspect of life for another life.
Yes.
We're not going to go into the Old Testament and
Yeah.
Quran and things of that magnitude. But for someone that had an undercover, or that was in underground, it's called enterprise.
Enterprises, yes. Criminal enterprise.
You're locked away. Or if you're caught with a certain amount of weight before now it's legal, you're still locked away for 30 years. How do you really feel about that now that you have a real total as a grown mother and woman? How do you really feel about it, to take yourself out of being the child, but just as a woman, and you have a household, and something of that magnitude occurs. How can you digest, manifest, or break that down for the young woman that now has a child? She was going to school, she got impregnated, and the individual, as one of the TV shows they have now, it says, well, they like each other. What are you? He's an FBI agent. No, she's an FBI agent. He says he's a crook. Explain that, or get into that a little bit so the younger people really understand the digestion of understanding a loss is a loss is a loss, and the hurt from them not being there.
I'll say it's interesting to see, as far as like even with like the marijuana industry, how many people are profiting from it now legally, where my father is still in prison. How many people have been able to come home, you know, where my father is still in prison.
He's in federal prison, correct?
In federal prison.
Not state.
Federal prison, yes. So I would say to younger generations, or people really who are like my age as a kid, because it's hard. It's nothing easy about going to school and they're doing daddy-daughter dances and you don't have your father there.
Can you get a little in depth with that? You know, because I don't understand that.
Okay.
And I say I don't understand it there, and that's the main medium of what I'm saying for those that are at home and that are observing on the tube, because you can't digest, as you stated, some things if you've never been there. So you really have to paint a somewhat hieroglyphic picture for them to take it a piece apart, each and every particle of that picture, and put it back together. Now they understand it individualistically.
I guess it definitely brings up feelings of abandonment. You know what I mean? And I know that that's not the intent of anyone when they leave their children, or when they have things that take them away from their children. But it definitely feels up meanings of feelings of abandonment. You don't get those pivotal moments. You don't get to see, like I said, the daddy-daughter dance, the prom, to escort. You know, I was on homecoming court. He wasn't there to escort me down when I went down to homecoming court. He wasn't there to walk me down the aisle when I got married. Like all those pivotal moments that people remember just throughout life, I didn't have that. You know what I mean?
I want to ask you this here.
Go ahead.
How long were you married?
I was married for about, not long, like 5 years.
We'll go past that. Let's flip it from his perspective.
Yeah.
Express how he has explained to you and expressed to you how much he wish he could be there, and how prominent that and how full that made you to hear that, even though the physical statute of him not being there, but it makes you feel so whole and strong that even kryptonite can't take you down.
That's really important, because I would say, like I said, he's the closest person to me, and he's in prison, which makes it a little bit harder. Because I know the last time I went on a visit, I cried all the way home. Because I said the closest person to me, the person that understands me more than anybody.
That you trust.
Yes.
That you believe.
Yeah.
That has been there.
Yes. Is someone who I can't actually physically be with. But we've built a really strong foundation, a really strong relationship from when I was a little girl. Like calling me every day. I had a tough time as a teenager, and he was the first person that I leaned on. He was, when I went through transitions that teenage girls do, he was the first person I called, the first person I told. It's like, Daddy, you know, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. And he said that was the proudest moment, that he was the first person that I thought to tell for him.
You see what you said about daddy? Now, I feel the same way about my daddy, because I'm a daddy's boy. I love my mama, don't get me wrong, but I'm a daddy's boy. And being of color, a black man of color, that's rare.
Yes.
So I say that to you to, first I want to applaud you and honor you for that. But also I would like for you to get across in your own words the importance of, if it's not your biological father,
yes,
someone
Yeah.
has to be of that cohesion and strength and pillar of strength and beacon of light. Not necessarily they even have to be a male, but they have to be someone of structure that you can trust, because trust is earned.
Yeah.
So please speak on that.
Yeah, I spoke on it a bit as far as like not having that head, right, where it leaves you open to pray. And I feel like it's so important for women to have a strong, even if it's not a man, but for me it was a man, a strong male figure in their life, whether it be your father, your uncle, your brother, to just know that you have that covering, know that you have that protection, because I promise you, people treat you differently.
But you did speak of two men. You did.
Okay, who?
I stunned her. I stunned her. And the two men is God. You said of your prayer.
Yes, of course, yes.
You know who he is, and he is who he say he is. And the next one was your father. So continue to elaborate on how that makes you, see how you lighten up? You got heavy, then you just, so speak of how your faith, your belief, your hope, your understanding as you've grown into it of your biological father, who is the son of the father, and he's your father, and your father, which is the father of you. We're not getting into theologies, we're getting into truth. Speak of that. I got you huffing and puffing.
No, I got you. It's so I'm a very spiritual person, right?
It's beautiful in so many ways.
And to be connected with your creator is the most important thing.
How did that happen for you though? Because these kids of today.
What happens is, like I said, I didn't have my father. My mother was in and out of prison my whole life. When you don't have those things to lean on, you have to lean on something, right?
Really?
Yes. And for me, it was my creator, God, Allah, whatever anybody wants to call it. You have to, I don't know. You have to, I guess, reach deep within inside of yourself. It's not easy.
Give it as it is. Don't dress it up.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is, it's not easy. It's not easy to get that connection. It's not easy to build that relationship. It's not easy to understand that there's more to life than what's here in the physical.
Earthly.
Right? What's here in the physical.
Ooh.
You have to dig deep. That's not
really.
You got to dig deep.
Now, when you're saying that, you're a young person. Most older people speak of that there. See, the young people that are younger than you, because you're young still, they don't understand that. Do you think that's because, I'm going back to your social thing now. Do you think that's because it's not in the homes or it's not in the schools?
No. I don't know about being in the school, but it wasn't in my home either. It was me knowing, and not because of my mother and father, it was because who I lived with at the time, but it was me not having it in the home, right? It was me not having that love and security and safety in my home, that I had to find my love and security and safety in God. So it's, you just have to want it. It's like a seeking, as they call it.
So I guess the proverb that they speak of when they say, now you're going to love this, when they say, you have to seek him for yourself.
Yes, that's what it is.
Because that you know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And as they have emphasized and iterated redundantly, the older people.
Yes.
He is who he say he is.
Yes.
But you got to know it.
Yeah.
And you go to your father.
Yeah.
Your heavenly father. As you go to your biological father. Could you speak on that there to people that have no idea of what faith is? Some people say you got to say a long prayer. You just said, and I know this for myself. That's why I'm understanding that. You talk to your father like it's your biological father physically here. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out prayer if you're a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew. Please elaborate on that there just a little more for those young people that think it's no hope and have to run to this gang, run to this person, or run to this street corner. And then once they run there still is not the unconditional love and understanding and appreciation of protection that they're looking for.
I think someone told me that no matter where you go, you're going to bring yourself with you, right? And no matter where you go, you're going to bring God with you. But if you don't have that connection, then you're going to feel alone. If you don't take that time really daily to just get quiet and get centered and connect, and however you do it, I'm not really the person to tell anybody how to do it.
The Bible says, peace be still. So I'm going to try to translate that in the aspect of going back to COVID. You had to stand still for a moment and be protective of your surrounding, who was in your circle, and why they were there. Did they really? It made you prioritize who, what, when, and where, and why, and how. And understanding that I want to get back to the importance of that 848. I mean, that number itself, well, 888 stands for balance.
Okay.
So 848, who came up with that bill? Is that Reagan's administration or is that Clinton? Who is that? Do you recall?
I should. I know my father was indicted in the Reagan era.
Okay.
So that's
So more than likely it's Reagan.
yeah.
Reagan or either Bush Sr. One of the two.
Possibly.
He might have, as a matter of fact, he was the vice president in charge of that, if I'm not mistaken.
I know there's a lot of, I believe Joe Biden actually.
Well, that's in Congress, yeah.
Yeah, Joe Biden was a leader to get
Hammered that home.
to get it to go
But he
through.
was a different Joe Biden then to now.
I don't.
We're not going to go into the
Yeah,
politics.
I don't know.
thing,
I don't
but
know
he was
that.
when you rise, your mindset changes because your position is different. Getting from that, I want to say this to you, that I take it wholesomely and honestly as a privilege, as a blessing, that you took the time to explain the importance of a father, the importance of faith, the importance of giving back, the importance that you are whole now and you're human, and that also you have feelings. Don't judge me. Don't judge my father. Don't judge his situation, because we brought to the forefront the importance in America that if you're not asking a person to survive, you're asking them to die. But on the flip side, survive is one thing, but to thrive is on a whole nother decor. And we're going to close out the segment on your thriving with this 848, your kids in school, your personal life, and don't you dare stop. So you're going to close out the segment, and I'm going to end the show. How's that?
Sure, that works. I think this 848 project, for me, the most important part is for people to see my father the way that I see him. People to see how caring and gentle and kind and smart and just a great spirit that he has. That's my goal. I want people to, if they don't have empathy or sympathy for my father, have some empathy and sympathy for me. Have some empathy and sympathy for his children and all the people that love him, that want to see him come home. That's what's important for me. If anything that I do, every breath that I breathe is geared towards that one goal, is to see my dad come home. And I won't stop until it happens.
You know, you sound on the core of Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz in the aspect that I think it was Wendy Mandela also, how that was their husband. You're the child. You're the offspring. And that is your motivation. That is also your one desire, not only for your father, but for all of the people that are in your situation to have empathy. And that's what America's supposed to have.
Yeah.
Empathy and understanding. You can't trial me once for the same thing in this country, they says. That's unlawful. But I want to make it also plain, we're not advocating about underworld life. We're not advocating about what is in the books about this person, that one. We're talking about homelessness. We're talking about shelter. We're talking about families that are broken up. We're speaking also of human beings that are a part of this civilization that's most essential. And that you have to have a caring heart. At some point in time, when is enough to the contrary and to the positive? And on that day, I'd like to say to you, thank you so very, very much for getting your message out there. And please don't forget about 848 policy. Read up on it. You read up on everything else and put something on YouTube about 848, about all of the political prisoners, from the politicians to the underworld to the clergy to everything, whereas you feel that is your right to speak and to protest collectively, peacefully, but your voice is to be heard. And on that order, I say, I'm going to change my ending of the story today. The struggle continues. True?
Yes.
But we will be victorious. Thank you so much. I'm Poochie Hill. This is for another segment of Deadline. You like that?